Hey there, my friend. It's Trisha Carr. Real quick before we head into this episode, I just want to make sure that you know about Modern Mystic Life, a subscription service for spiritual mentoring and education. The monthly subscription is only $11.11 per month. We have regular support and inspiration delivered with the utmost ease right into your text messenger 2 to 4 times per week. You can use your mobile device or your desktop messenger to access the lessons and meditations, a monthly MP3 download of a produced meditation, at least once per month live meditation led by me. There is no account login, and we have a monthly live class workshop. These are usually $35 for non-subscribers, so it is quite a deal. And the community is amazing. This is a way for you to support the Charmed Life podcast and also a way for us to be able to work more closely together. So do check out how you can subscribe in the show notes. I hope to see you there. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe, and I am your host. My name is Trisha Carr. I'm so pleased to be here with you for this episode, and I am just so pleased that you are taking some kind of time to feed your spirit, to be in a space of development on a personal or spiritual level, for any of the reasons that you are giving yourself the opportunity to listen to a podcast like this, or, whether it's mine or someone else's. I just want to say thank you for doing that, because by serving yourself, you are making it a better place for all of us, this beautiful world. So thank you for that. And as we head into this conversation episode, I want to just remind you also that I would really love it if you would give us a review. That helps me so much. I can't even really describe how much it helps, because the reviews are the things that really tell the algorithm that this is something that, should happen. So if you've been listening, please do. Give a review. You can write just a few words or scroll down, find those stars, give it some stars. And then also, if you want to share it with someone that you know could benefit by the conversations that are here or the other things that I'm teaching and sharing on. So that is my invitation and my ask for this episode. And I want to tell you before I let you know about the amazing guest who is on, I have been talking about the Intuitive Healing Arts Academy, and we are in full swing now. Our first signature program, full program, is starting on April 30th, and that is Animal Communication. So Animal Communication, this is April 30th. It's over 4 weekends, but we have a gap week in between 2 weekends. And this is for anyone who is craving spiritual education, spiritual immersion, and also loves animals. So you will be gaining the skill of animal communication, and there is a certification to the process if you opt for that. But it's really for people who want to immerse themselves in spirit and nature. And that's what it's all about. Now, I don't know when you're listening to this. If you are listening after April 30th, it's coming around again. So be sure to just check the show notes, because you'll be able to find the most updated schedule and links, even if you are listening after April 30th of 2023. And if you're listening in advance of that, I want to encourage you, if this is calling to you, to go ahead and sign up and enroll sooner than later for 2 reasons. There is a pre-registration price, and there is also already content there for you to begin to prepare and for you to begin to immerse yourself in. So that's an invitation for you. And then also I want to let you know the second signature program, and they're not really ranked, it's just chronologically, is the Multidimensional Mediumship Program. That is starting June 4th. That's when we go live. Now, I haven't opened registration for that, but, well, at least at the time that I'm recording this, but who knows, maybe I will have by the time you are listening to it. And again, both of these programs will be ongoing, and you can extend those programs beyond just the 4 weeks of their core program time. So many other things, many other different kinds of workshops and big programs, immersive programs. So just stay tuned there. I think it's just such an important time for us to come together. And that's something that we talk about in this episode with my very special guest, Melissa Moore, Ph.D. Melissa is steward of the North American Karuna Training and has been since 2014. She co-founded the Karuna Europe in 1996. Melissa has her master's in contemplative psychotherapy from Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado, and her PhD in psychological anthropology from the California Institute of Integral Studies. Melissa has been a student of Vajrayana Buddhism and Chogyam, Trungpa, Rinpoche since 1979. She was the founding director of the Felton Institute for Research and Training in San Francisco. Melissa has been involved in community-based research for the most marginalized populations in California, trained frontline providers in mental health in evidence-based practices, and then researched the outcomes. Melissa is the executive director of Karuna Training and a lead faculty. She's taught Karuna Training in 9 countries and 4 states in the U.S. She lives in Denver with her dog and husband. And Melissa recently published The Diamonds Within Us, Uncovering Brilliant Sanity Through Contemplative Psychology. You can find her book in the show notes, and we talk about this Karuna Training, which is really amazing. You can, after you listen to this conversation, you can start right away by joining their newsletter and also joining their live presentations or live it's like a community-based kind of lives that they do, so you can get to understand the philosophies and the faculty. And so the Karuna Training, which she's going to explain to us in completion, which I didn't get until the end, is both a personal and experiential development, as well as giving you practical skills to be able to be a practitioner of contemplative psychology. So anyway, it's really amazing. I love this conversation. I love the grounded and the warmth feeling, the warm and grounded feeling that I get from Melissa Moore. So why don't I welcome you into this conversation, and I will chat with you on the other side. Melissa, I am very excited to learn all about the work that you're doing. You have a tremendous background and also what you're moving toward. So first of all, welcome to the podcast and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And I would love to just hear about your journey and the work that you're doing. Would you mind opening it up for us all?
Sure. Well, I've been a practitioner and also teacher of something called contemplative psychology for many, many years. And it was something that evolved originally out of Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado. I had gone there early on, even before it was accredited, and received a master's in contemplative psychotherapy. And then I worked as a therapist for several years, and I was very dissatisfied with the medical model, especially around psychology. And I worked first with kids with autism and then different ones on the spectrum that were hospitalized. And then I worked with women. I had a long, long journey working with women and eating disorders and sexual trauma and this kind of thing. And I didn't see healing. I saw profit-making medical kinds of things, and I was really in misalignment with all of that. And it wasn't true to my training at Naropa. And so then I had the opportunity to go to Europe. I was then married to the director of Shambhala Europe, and we went in the early 90s. And then I asked Rinpoche at the time, what shall I teach here? And he said, why don't you teach contemplative psychology? And I was living in Germany at that moment. We were touring around teaching, and I had so much interest in it, contemplative psychology. So I knew I didn't want to compete with Naropa and create a degreed program, but I wanted to take the principles of contemplative psychology. And that was the seed of Karuna Training, which started 30 years ago. We've now offered Karuna in 9 countries. And in the US, it started in 2014. We're a separate company from the European company now. We're all nonprofits. But basically, so I've been doing the US one since 2014, but I still interact with the European. So it's a path of training that draws heavily on Buddhism, but integrates it with Western psychological processes. So we don't just do the exotic Buddhism of Tibetan Buddhism, which it's normally done with a teacher. We uncouple that and bring it into our interactions with each other in a cohort so that we can go deep into the development of heart and our trusting in our basic sanity. We call it intrinsic health. And also learning how our mind is habituated, as we know, and has many biases that is just conditioned by our experience in this life, or if you believe in recurring lives, then all the lives and ancestors behind us and so forth. So we look at that and we own that and embrace our emotions and our habits of mind, even as a path for awakening and awareness. And we work in a cohort model. So I've been doing that. It's had many iterations, especially COVID really kind of knocked us off center. And we have been doing the last few cohorts online. But this year I really want to bring it back in person because it's an awareness training. And I feel it's deep relational work. And it matters if you can feel, see, and have all the senses with humans, not just, I mean, Zoom is wonderful and it's miraculous what we can do, but I think we need each other in the flesh.
Yes, yes. So it's done in cohorts. And so approximately how many are in a cohort?
Oh, only like 25 to even up to 30. We have gone up to 30, but it's better if it's about 20 to 25 people because we get to know each other and we do a lot of methods are transmitted and people, learn this work called compassionate exchange work that looks a lot like therapy, but it isn't therapy because it's a mutual journey of holding each other as compassionate friends. So it's really a model on how do we really show up for others in our life. But before we get into that, we work strongly on our own, understanding the map of how Buddhist psychology understands how mind becomes habituated. And what we're addicted to is me, of course, and that causes a lot of problems. And also, we can't get rid of me, so we have to befriend it and go through the fires of what we have to learn here on this earth. So that's what Karuna is. So even though I've been teaching it all these years, I've been doing Karuna all these years because it's the kind of path that you don't, its goal is nothing short of liberation in terms of being awakened.
That's
So
wonderful. And so it's a group process, and is it like a lecture situation? Are there exercises? Is there hot seat counseling? I'm just curious what the model looks like.
Yeah, well, we do a lot of everything is centered around meditation because all of our work happens contemplatively in the present moment. So we really need to be embodied in our body, in our emotions, and present in our mind. And that takes some training, right? Because we're compartmentalized, especially in this day and age when we have so much clickbait coming at us, So we work a lot in the beginning just in stabilizing the mind and understanding what that really means. And we also give talks. We have different teachers rotating through, and we give talks, and then we always do experiential work affiliated with that talk. So we don't just understand it, from a a cognitive perspective, but also from an inner embodied perspective. And then we do, there's a mandala, a sacred ancient mandala called the Five Buddha Families that is at the center of our work. And we learn about that through ritual with the elements, and also through laying in postures, meditative postures that evoke different energies. And then we learn about the art of transmuting confusion into wisdom, which is a very Tibetan understanding. So we evoke a lot of our habits to be able to befriend them and also transmute them. And so that's also part of the training. We do 2 long retreats, week-long retreats in the training, where we go deep into this, what's called Maitri space awareness, which was developed by Chogyam Trungpa, who was my original teacher in Boulder, Colorado, and he's who founded Naropa in university. So it was something made for Westerners. It was given to Westerners as a way for Westerners to understand a very paradoxical philosophy. And you could say the way that the elements interact, like I'm talking about fire and air and water and earth and all of that, the way they interact is, he says, a blueprint for how karma works. So if we understood the elements, we understand everything there is to know about karma. So we study the elements as well. And we understand and we study the elements as they show up in emotional and invisible energies in our emotions and in our minds and also in the world. So it's a nice training. It's life altering.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
How much, so like, as you mentioned, meditation, we are all counter habituated to meditation until we aren't,
Yeah, no, I always say you have to be kind of desperate to meditate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just to be honest, I'm not someone who came easily to meditation, because it was like, I have things to do. I am a busy person, and I was always feeling like, I can't be sitting here. What am I waiting for? That went on for 8 years in the beginning. And then I had an incredible, skillful teacher say, oh, well, wherever you go, your mind is going to follow you. And I know that's so obvious, but then I started seeing that there I was, no matter where I went, and I better sit down and befriend it. And that really helped me kind of, take some responsibility for some of the crazy stuff I was doing in those days, and just, come home to myself and be kind to myself. So I think you have to kind of really wear some things out in a lot of us, especially easily distracted, energetic types like myself. I was lucky. I was very young when I came. I was 24 when I came to the meditation path, but I was also wild, so now I'm in my 60s. I'm still wild, but I have totally given myself a big pasture, and I make room for that because, and that, I think, is the journey of meditation, is sort of getting to, know our energy, know our mind, know our habits.
Yeah. When I first started attempting to meditate, I remember I think I was reading a book or something, or maybe I was listening to some audio thing. And I remember having probably one moment, who knows how long it was, 30 seconds, 1 minute, I don't know, where I actually
was present.
Yeah. And it was like a quantum shift within me. It was like a time warp had happened. And it was almost like, I don't know if you remember your first kiss or the first time you made love, and it just kind of like stayed with me for days. And I was like, how do I get back there? Or maybe the ways that some people experience medicinal plant journeys. And I didn't know. But see, the book or whatever thing that I was reading or using as a tutorial, it didn't tell me, and I think a lot of people aren't told, that it's normal to not be able to just sit down and meditate. And,
Right.
so some people think I'm not good at meditating. I've
Right.
tried it and I can't do it. I'm the snowflake who can't meditate. Now, but none of us can until we can. It's because of how we are conditioned, right?
Well, and I think it's what we also expect, right? We think like
Yes,
there is gonna be
expectations.
like a
Mhm.
light switch and suddenly we're gonna be, but really meditation is allowing for all the things that we do all the
Yes.
time,
Mhm.
spacing out, feeling numb, feeling down. Sometimes we see the colors of our mind often, and just being observant and non-judgmental towards that is
Yeah,
tremendously fruitful, but we're not conditioned to understand that.
right.
We're not been I always feel like what I teach should be taught in kindergarten,
Mhm.
that people should, like, be curious about this thing we call mind
Yeah.
and how it's this narrative that it's spinning all the time is shaping our experience in life. That's huge, right?
Yes, and there's nothing, I mean, what I love about my where I am with my spiritual journey or just my life is that I can at will turn off my thoughts. I'm in charge
Oh,
of it
good.
now,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Most of the time I can do that. Sometimes when I'm really triggered, I have to
That
wrap
gets
my
harder.
body in a blanket. I learned that from Temple Grandin because we do
Mhm.
a lot of staying with emotions
Yeah,
because they have wisdom in them. But
yeah,
some emotions are so agitating that it's hard to stay with them.
yeah,
And when I say stay, I'm not talking about stay in your head, stay in your body and feel them fully.
mhm,
And it's uncomfortable and we need I always talk about intensity capacity, but
yeah.
the new language of trauma talks about it as windows of tolerance, right?
Tolerance,
That
yeah,
right,
mhm,
but this is more intensity capacity to feel discomfort because through that discomfort is some real important information,
right.
like about our life and what's important to us and our hearts.
And, well, first of all, I love the organic language and the subconscious, language of the word information, inform. It's an
Yes.
informed experience. It's an embodied experience. But the other thing I think that we don't know, that we don't aren't told or don't understand, is that if we do feel intense or painful emotions that are already there, that you won't be further harmed, that
Right.
they will move. It gets
They
better as
move.
you feel them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I always say, like, it's when we suppress emotions, I'm
Yeah.
fine,
You're already at that
we
I you're at that level of injury, you
right,
know?
and we're
Mhm.
damming them up and making them worse or acting them out, which is
Mhm.
another option. We're adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
To stay in the middle, which is where meditation comes in, to
Mhm.
stay just present with the energy and feel it for what it is, not add to it, because, our mind
Yeah.
gets going, but to really just feel it is so profoundly liberating, and yet it's so counterintuitive because we medicate our pain
Yeah.
away, right? Or
I
we
know.
the last thing we wanna do is feel it, and I always think, like, we really need each other for grieving, together. I always feel like grieving is a human, communal necessity for
Mhm.
us. It's almost like our, cleansing system because there is so much suffering in the world, and people do die, and people do have tragedies, and we see them in front of our eyes all the time. Can we make room for those? Yeah, I feel like we have a capacity of heart as human beings that's infinite. We don't have to protect ourselves from that. We can generate ourselves through the heart by feeling these things together and for each other. And people need to be witnessed. They need to be seen, like
Yes.
people who are unhoused and people who are in psychosis or people who are, in the middle of war. People need to be seen. I feel for it, and that's what I try and do. Even if I'm looking at headlines, I try to bear witness,
Yeah.
and it's hard. It's because there's so much of it right now.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a lot of pain.
I'm not sure there's more pain and suffering? I just think that it's in front of us more.
I think it might be both, though. I
Yeah,
mean, yes, of course, that there is a huge component to the fact that the volume is turned up on any and all things.
it
And
is.
yeah.
But I think at the same time, like consciousness, this is your line of work as well,
Mhm.
is I like this language, kind of potentially upgrading. And what I mean by that is like we are an incredibly resilient species and very bright. And we need, if we have all this information coming at us, we need to know how to integrate it and
Mhm.
process it in a way that holds it for the good of the better of the whole.
Yeah.
And I feel that's where coming back in person and being in community and really understanding the isolation is what creates all this division and strife, right? So,
Yes, and then if we put the filter of it of broadcast media or social media,
yeah,
which are all owned by someone, by some commercial agency, and it is just that, it is filtered, it is
yeah,
distorted, and it is made to fit a certain illusion that will keep us addicted to going back to that piece, and
yeah.
it's not real human interaction, and it's not
Right,
real.
exactly.
I mean, you can make it happen. I mean, obviously, I can go in there and keep up with my friends and, attract new clients and all of that, but, generally speaking.
Well, I think that's where the podcast and what I like about the podcast, because there's a communication happening.
Yes.
We're
Mhm.
in contact. It's not just, somebody. I mean, I also sometimes like to look at reels and these kinds of
Mhm.
things, but I think what I'm talking about is like growing a wider mind to hold all the noise that's happening and still stay centered and focused on the values that we care about.
Yes.
That's what's up right now, so that we don't just get ADHD out of our bodies and we can't,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes.
Right.
I really feel like sharing with you something that has been a part of my personal as well as my professional spiritual, messaging lately. May I share with you?
Oh,
It's along these
please.
lines. I think you'll love it, and it, has to do with the fact that we are all here. Every single human being has to develop compassion. Compassion's not really natural, of course. I mean, look at children. As we're children, children are self-centered, and that's appropriate,
Yeah,
and the organic language, or the etymology of compassion, and passion being like pain,
yeah,
and so it's to
to feel
calm,
with. Yeah,
to be in that witness, to be
yeah,
in the pain of someone, to be a
that's
profound
right.
witness.
Yeah,
And that compassion is, and if we bring it into a function, that it is the ability to witness, to see someone else's pain, someone
yeah,
else's suffering, and have the capacity to act on alleviating it.
beautiful. Mhm,
And so some of the pieces here that are important are to realize the capacity, which is what you're talking about.
mhm.
And we have suddenly flooded what our capacity was suddenly, 20 years or whatever, 15, I don't know, flooding our awareness receptors. So then what do we do? So then taking action to alleviate someone's suffering, this is what Spirit broke down for me. First of all, we have to realize that action includes prayer
Mhm.
or sending energy, healing, whatever, however you said, but
Yeah,
a contemplative, compassionate space and understanding on the energetic level, that is action. And then, of course, donating, voting, marching, rescuing someone, helping someone, talking to someone, those actions as well. But we have to expand in that baseline capacity of trusting that prayer, energy, whatever that is, that witness is action. It's something. Otherwise, we just get compassion fatigue, which actually damages us.
yeah. Well, I always like the fatigue I always feel from a contemplative psychology
Mhm.
perspective is we understand that this compassion, true compassion, occurs when this ego is no longer maintained. You naturally feel for the world. It's just our innate capacity,
Yeah.
but it has to be cultivated because we have a lot of
Yes.
conditioning around just being self-centered, as you say, like children, that kind of thing. So it really does matter how people are brought forward in the world as children. But the thing is like compassion fatigue, I always am wary of that word and I'm also wary of the word self-compassion, because self-compassion, we have another word for it in Karuna called Maitri, loving kindness towards yourself, which is baseline. If you don't have that acceptance and loving kindness and non-judgmental awareness towards ourselves, we can't possibly open up and be confident enough to dissolve enough to be the non-dual witness that is where healing abides, because it's not one, not two. It's like the capacity to compassion is tremendously healing, just by bearing witness, but also by feeling with completely. And we call that compassionate exchange. And we hold containers and learn how to hold people in that loving presence. And it's healing, because we all need to be, even like when you go to the doctor these days and they're sitting there on a computer, they're not bearing witness with you. They're being forced to document you for legal reasons, which is that. So even the art of medicine, a lot of times, is being lost. But it's been understood for a long time by humans that we need that contact.
And we will be right back. Hi, friend, it's Trisha Carr with an invitation for you if you are ready to accelerate your ascension and connect to the swift flow of your life mission. Mind Body Ascension Acceleration Coaching. All of my clinical training, my experience from teaching and providing countless sessions and classes, one-on-one, group coaching, healing, reading, teaching, channeling, as well as my calibration as a human design reflector. I'm offering all of this to you to step up your entire life, to accelerate your ascension walk. If you've had a single session with me, if you've had coaching, or if you've experienced transformation from any of my offerings, my classes, podcasts, videos, well, this is an accelerated and exponentially charged. This is what my soul has prepared for an eternity and up to now. And if you hear this call, then this is also co-created with your soul. Your life is meant to be joy first and a service as a close and integrated second. This coaching is especially tuned for high achievers who want to accelerate their progress on their life mission and create mind-body well-being and higher attunement. Submit to work with me in this powerful container, this premium coaching. If you feel the call, you can do it. I guide, you take action. I hold the resonant projection field, channel your steps, and you take action. The first action step is to fill out an application, the link to which you will find in the description. Be prepared, be ready to upgrade your mind-body ascension and your connection and flow with your spiritual mission. And now back to the show. I would love for you to, I think contemplation is so important, and I think that contemplation is also something that we are not habituated to experience because we might mistake contemplation for anxious thinking or something, or ruminating in a depressed sense. Can you explain contemplation and maybe also how it compares to meditation?
Well, so meditation is just presencing your body, speech, and mind as much as possible in the present moment. You're just synchronizing your body, your breath, and your mind with the present moment. So, it allows for thinking. It just means that you're not following the thoughts down the rabbit hole. You're abiding in the present. And then contemplation is sometimes called meaning meditation, where you're given either a word or a sentence or a affirmation or something to really contemplate, either about yourself or about your life or about maybe somebody else in general. So there's millions of kind of meta contemplations that help us open the heart through And so and that's a big part of Karuna too. We do a lot of contemplation, but to be able to contemplate something, you do need a stable mind, so you can bring your mind back again and again to what you're thinking about. So it's meditation is not easy. And it's on the other side, it's so simple we miss it, right? It's just about relaxing. And that is so funny that we have to create a container for ourselves to relax. So
Yes, we're very conditioned to bring it back to essentially being a friend to yourself, being a friend to your mind. Why are we so conditioned to believe in negative reinforcement when I think social psychology has known that is not a sustainable model for development for a long time? This is not new, but we are conditioned to believe that if we judge ourselves, or if we speak poorly against ourselves, that if we are disappointed in ourselves, that something isn't as good as we expect, expectations being just the pathway to hell.
yeah, true.
Why is that so much
Yeah.
a part of us, of our conditioning?
Well, it's self-consciousness, right? So we um, are not living ourselves. We're monitoring ourselves,
Yeah.
trying to be something other than what we are. And we think that what we are is not good enough. So it's this whole, and our culture in particular makes a lot of money off of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's very exaggerated these days, that kind of, especially with social media feeding you back your algorithms. So you're
Yes.
getting like
Your confirmation
reinforced.
bias.
but but I think it's always been true, like what we were engineered for originally is this, fight or flight kind of survival. And as we've evolved as human beings, or let's say sentient beings altogether, um, we have come a long way, I think, as human beings. We're no longer, just fighting over a scrap of meat. We're fighting over entire continents of territory. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So I mean, and views and religions and all kinds of other things. This othering to know that we exist. It's a human nature, and it's part of being in the human realm. But in the human realm, you have a choice,
Yes.
unlike the animal realm where you're just in survival and completely dependent. Or there's all these realms that we study in Buddhism, or the jealous God realm, which a lot of this world, when you've actually tasted some kind of freedom and you want to try to get back to it, or the God realm, which is pure ignorance. Like, I live in Marin County and I can't possibly, have a freeway through my beautiful landscape because I couldn't possibly think of others, even though I'm a social democrat, liberal, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? All these
Yeah.
concepts to define ourselves. So I don't think we're ever going to not do that. That's called samsara.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do think is that with all the information coming in spiritual programs such as your own, and all the ways in which all that is reverberating now through podcasts, that the mind is getting wiser as we come along. Like we will no longer be able to see our country as separate from white supremacy, for example, or
Sure.
slavery, right? The foundations of slavery, because we've seen through the looking glass of that. That's why so many people are trying to ban books and all of that, right? They're trying to get the genie back in the bottle,
Yeah.
but it will never work. The mind is already open to that. So I think that's where I kind of feel hopeful. And also we have a lot of resilience and ingenuity. And I think that there are methods. We know we have the wherewithal and the capacity as human species to house and feed and shelter every single human being on the planet, even with the changing. But that's not our nature. We go towards selfishness and territory first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this probably, through climate change, there'll be a lot of loss of life and a lot of tragedy. And at the same time, the wisening of human beings on how we have to live together to be on this planet. I don't know. This has just been my latest thing that I've been perhaps looking towards the intelligence of our species instead of the ignorance of our
Mm.
species. You can look at both sides, right? And so,
That's very hopeful. Yes,
yeah,
and climate change, I think, is a big. I mean, it's adding fuel to all of it, and
with
it's
these
there's going.
tornadoes, and I mean,
Mhm.
it goes on and on every
Yeah,
moment.
there was. I actually, so I'm a channel. I
Yeah,
channel, and that's one of the, and it was just it was within a week, I think it was, and I was I mean, often surprised by whatever comes through, but the channeled message that came through was largely about climate change, and that um, there's going to be in 45 to 50 years. This was the prediction. They said that it's going to be really catastrophic. Not saying that it's going to wipe us off the planet, but it's
many
catastrophic.
people are going to be
Yeah,
harmed. Yeah,
right. And then in about 10 years, it's going to be undeniable. It's going to be undeniable because there will be such damage to certain, it's like you can't deny wars because it's
right.
so clear and obvious. You have to be a profound liar or profoundly delusional in order to be able to deny it. And that it's just, there's, it's
Mm.
time. And the interesting thing also about, if I don't mean to go on a
No,
tangent
it's
about
good.
climate change,
No,
the
it's all
interesting
right.
thing is we actually have a euphemistic way that we think about it too, because we call it climate change. That's kind of a
Yes.
euphemism. Oh, isn't that's not very, that doesn't hurt very much to say something like that. And then we
Yeah.
also say what we're doing to the environment or what we're doing to the earth. And in fact, that is how it's being projected. But the earth
Yeah.
is so healthy, her immune system, when it comes down to it, if a body has a disease, will the body's immune system be able to overcome the disease, or will the disease overcome the body? And the
Yeah.
fact is, this immune system of the earth will overcome us. So we are only harming ourselves. We will not survive ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. No, I get that. The earth will prevail. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
And yeah, but I do think that there's a wisdom and a know-how and knowledge in the world that is refining itself.
Yeah. I want to join you in
Yeah,
believing in the wisdom and believing in the the potential of holistic intelligence, and that will maybe like a 100 monkey model, tip over.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And I think, you're part of that in this network and these
Thanks. Me too.
tendrils of energy and
Hmm.
message that are going out. Who knows who listens to these
Right.
podcasts, right? That go out on the airs. I stumble on podcasts all the time, and I'm always curious about people's understanding of the world and how we're making sense of what's happening to us right now. It's an amazing time in history.
Hmm.
So, but I see these podcasts as a very positive thing, which is why I'm participating in them, not
Oh, thank
just to
you.
promote my book, but also because I think that we jointly are, hopefully contributing to a more awakened message. Right?
Yes.
It's a
Amen.
choice. Yeah.
And what I love about podcasts, and I do want to talk about your book, but what I love about
Okay.
podcasts is that there is a statistic, because I teach content marketing for, wellness and spiritual
Ah,
professionals. And so the podcasts are like the epitome of it, because the statistic is something like 80% of listeners listen to almost every minute of a podcast. And podcasts are, average between 40 to 60 minutes, and
that's true.
a lot better than 5 to 7 seconds on TikTok. You can't really get so
No, and it really captures your attention, which is why I've been doing
Mhm.
so many. I've been,
Good.
going on them because I realize like that's the best way to get my message out there as
Yes.
well. And I also I choose them, right? So we choose each other on
Hmm.
who to be on, and I feel like there is a like-minded network happening
Oh,
for the
yes.
betterment of the planet. So that's really good. Yeah.
I would love to let's talk about your book, though. And I
Yeah.
do have some more questions about Karuna training, too, but I want to talk
Okay.
about your book first.
Well, it's been out for a year and a half, and it's called The Diamonds Within Us, Uncovering Brilliant Sanity Through Contemplative Psychology. And it is to be kind of, in the one sense, it's a textbook in that I go in deeper into some of the things we study in Karuna. So it goes along with Karuna training. But it also is very much a personal memoir of my journey. I always use myself as an example. I don't often use examples of students just because I want to be I always say that you teach what you need to learn.
Yes.
And so, but it talks about, how we define ego and this mandala of the five Buddha families and all of that. But mostly it talks about how we have innate goodness and innate wisdom within us, and that we have to cultivate it, and we have to put some intention behind that and sit with things that may not be comfortable in order to get to the information, as you were describing the meta level of information. So yeah, so the book is I only because of COVID did I slow down enough. It's been sitting in my computer for 15 years. And finally in COVID, I was like, hey, now is the time I can write this book. And it really took me 9 months to get it out. So that
Oh,
was good.
yeah.
I was a real birth.
You just stated.
I did. And I've taught this stuff for so long, so it's not everything that's in the training, but, and then, yeah, so the book is one thing. And then we are starting another Karuna training model. This time I'm trying to invite people into Denver. We found a universal health place, which is in eastern part of Denver. Beautiful place. It's in person, but non-residential. So we're aiming for people locally, and each cohort is like 25 to 30 people is the most we'll go. It's very close to the Denver airport. And we do 8 programs together in person. 2 of them are week-long retreats spread out over a year and a half. So it's a very intensive program. And then in between, we meet online and have integrative calls for the methods that we impart and study groups. So it's a very deep communal commitment, and it's contained, so it allows you to move through a process. And yeah, it's a wonderful training, and I'm hoping that we get people back in person, because the whole thing with COVID has got people a little frightened to be out. But I know from teaching this for 30 years that it works much better as an awareness to practice together, to be together, to form the relationships in person makes a huge difference. So I'm waving my flag saying, let's get back together in person. Let's see if we can get it together. And we're just about to launch that information on our website, karunatraining.com. So if you go there, you can sign up for our newsletters, and you can receive all the announcements that we make.
And so that one is coming up. So
It
about
begins
how
in,
many?
it begins in September, and it's
Okay.
eight programs.
Okay.
So there's 2 weekend programs. The first one is a 3-day program, like 10 to 5, 3 days in Denver. And then the second one is a 2-day program in Denver. Then
And
there's
you
a week.
sign up for all of them, all 8,
Yeah,
or
you sign
do you?
up for the whole cohort model. And
Mhm.
we have we have scholarships. Don't let money be an option, something that obscures you, because we give away a lot of scholarship money for people who are in need, because we really want this to be inclusive. And it's pretty affordable for as much training as you get. And at the end, you get a certificate in contemplative psychology, which a lot of people bring in. So we have all kinds of people. You don't need to be a Buddhist. You do need to be committed to meditation, or at least willing to learn about it. And you don't need to be a therapist either for this to be at all relevant. We all have relationships. So we have business people, parents, we have many, this current cohort, we have 5 doctors involved.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I think that people are looking on how to integrate a contemplative approach into their work with others, and whatever that might be. And so Karuna is really a very deep awareness training and heart opening training.
So it's a personal experiential in addition to giving you a skill set as a
Yes,
practitioner.
that's right.
Oh,
That's right.
I just got that.
Yeah, yeah, it's both.
I'm glad.
It's
I'm glad.
both. Yeah, thank you for defining that and naming it, because it's really both. It's a experiential, life-altering process, and you come away with a lot of method and skills. That's right.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
so how, I imagine there's a qualification process,
Yeah,
right?
well, we do. There's an
Interviews.
application.
Mhm,
People should go online and look at the program and see what, because there are actual live dates that you have to
mhm,
kind of meet with your calendar. You have to deal
mhm,
with that. And then there's an interview process. Once you fill out an application, there's an interview process. And then myself or another lead faculty will do the interview, and we
mhm,
just get to know you. And we really recommend, though, that people come and find out about us. We offer every month Karuna Lives. They're an hour long. You can hear from us and feel how we work and learn meditation from us. We also have an online community built on the Circle platform, which people can join and participate in all kinds of different things happening there. And so we also have some live in-person introductory trainings happening in Boulder in May and July. And so people should and could come and get to know us first, and should,
mhm.
because it's a strong commitment we
Yeah.
make when we go into Karuna. So we want people to know what they're getting into. And so we offer lots of opportunities for that.
Yes, that is the best. That's what
Yeah.
that's why I do this, like, podcasts too, is
Ah.
because I would like for clients and students to, get warmed up to whatever's coming through this portal and find out, you know what I mean?
I like
I
that.
like
Yeah.
that, and, I love all that there's a lot of community service that you're doing with the introductory events and the lives and everything. How are the lives delivered, and on what kind of platform?
Those are like delivered on Zoom.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, but you do have to register for them on their topic driven, and we have an article once a month. So people can come, they're just an hour long, and we do a little meditation and usually a little talk and a breakout. And it's fun. They're interactive, and they're on topics. Like I just did one last month called Navigating the Winds of Change.
Mhm,
Like, what do we need inside of ourselves when we're meeting change out in the world or inside of ourselves, or even like tragedies that occur that we don't expect?
mhm,
Like, how do we calibrate around change? So that's a Karuna topic. So we just take one Karuna topic and drop them once a month. And yeah, they're fun. And you can meet our faculty that way. Some people come again and again just to those lives because they're
mhm.
free. They're free. And yeah, but you have to register for them.
Right. So joining your newsletter is the
Yeah,
best way to stay on top of all of that.
that's
Yeah.
right. So
That's
it's
this
karunatraining.com. So I really appreciate getting to know you. Thank you for inviting me and talking about these things, because then we support each other. I love it that you're a medium, and that, oracles. That's another thing, like ritually oracles, like where do we turn for that? Because
mm,
I believe that oracles show us what we already believe
yeah.
and what we already understand or are able to meet.
Yeah.
So that's really great.
Thank you. That is something that I contemplate is, that idea of being an oracle. So not to and not in a self-aggrandized way at all, but
No,
thank you for
no.
that.
But you know what I mean? Like, we
Mhm,
need that. Those have been also customary in our worlds and community
mhm.
for a long time, and I really feel we need that as well. Not just, I don't know. Anyway, we all have
Yeah.
different oracles. So
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. Again, the Karuna training sounds so amazing. The book sounds amazing. I love the title of it, Diamonds Within Us.
the
Is that what
diamonds within us. Yeah.
Diamonds Within Us? I love it. And yeah, the community service aspect of it, where the lives are available and the introduction. I mean, so wonderful. So, thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for shining your light on our beautiful world. It's really just been wonderful.
Thank you, Tricia. Take care.
There was there's an incredible synchronicity in so much of this conversation with Melissa Moore, synchronicity between what I have been receiving as personal messages as well as messages for the community at large or for my client and student base. And I, of course, shared at least one of those in the conversation. And another one is that as I am recording this today, I just recently had a workshop with my Modern Mystic Life, my membership, where we have once per month, we have a workshop that's like 2 hours long. We also have once per month a live meditation. And then throughout the month and in between all of that, we have 2 to 4 times per week, me delivering you exclusive content, either some teaching, energy updates, or other meditations that I give to you that you can add into your practice, help you to keep going in your modern life as a mystic. That's the concept here. And in that workshop that we just had, it was a Pleiadian channeling session. So I channeled a Pleiadian council. And, when I schedule the things, I don't usually know what the things are exactly going to be about. Sometimes I get a download of an outline, but this one was very open-ended, Pleiadian channeling. But what really came out in that message had a lot to do, was again synchronized with what Melissa was talking about. And it had to do with being on our own sides, being in cooperation and in friendship with our inner light. This is how they were saying our inner light is here for us, that we are on our own sides. And to, in a way, believe in ourselves, befriend and believe in ourselves and in that inner light, to trust our inner light. And then in addition to that, the Pleiadians also asked us to trust that the universal plan is for us. So the inner light and the universe, it's for us. And not to mistake either yourself and how well you might be achieving by some worldly model, or by not to mistake yourself and your capacity and your divinity with how you're measuring up to something so harsh as that worldly model. And then also not to confuse the things that are going on in our worldly model that might be painful or difficult or challenging, or, just challenging as the least to say, but not to confuse that human unconsciousness with the universe or the universal plan for us. The universe, as someone says, the universe has our backs. I don't remember who says that, who to attribute that to. But even beyond that, a plan. Now, that plan is in co-creation at all times, but the plan in an unconditional sense is divine. It is called. It is on basically a mission if you connect the inner light to the universal plan, and that you are on your own side, and to make friends with that and to love that each and every day, your inner light, as well as trusting and having that faith in your walk with the universal plan. I think this Karuna training is a fantastic tool to be able to move through some of those bigger pieces that might be keeping us separated from ourselves, if you will. It seems kind of strange. Can't really be separated from yourself. Melissa said, wherever you go, your mind will follow. So why not make friends with it? Well, I'm just wanting to convey to you that I want to convey to you encouragement, remembering that the word courage is the root of it is the word is core, not the root, but the root of the word COUR is the French or the Latin root of heart, cœur, as it is in French, and that I want to encourage you. I want to witness and add appreciation and resonance to your heart so that you can befriend it, trust it, anchor in it, and allow it to be fully manifest for yourself and all of us. That's my prayer for you. And that's what we have for you in this episode. I will depart for now, reminding you to check the show notes for Melissa's book, the Karuna Training, and all of the offerings that I have, including animal communication and the upcoming multidimensional mediumship and other workshops. And with that, we'll talk with you on the next episode, or we'll see you on YouTube or Instagram or any of those places where we might be able to connect. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.